So today what I want to do is sort of just review some of the function of the cell organelles. And we'll talk about a couple new things. We'll also look at some images of what these organelles are like in the electron microscope. So this first slide, we're just going to kind of make some analogies. So lots of times to help people understand what these different cell organelles do, we make an analogy. We compare them to some other object that we're more familiar with to help us understand what the organelle does. So we'll go through these kind of quickly because I think they're common sense. Now, which cell organelle, and you could just write like beneath the picture or something what organelle is. What do you think a cookbook might be? So what cell organelle might that be like? So what does a cookbook have in it? Instructions to make something, to make a meal. Well, what is like that in a cell? Ashley? Close, but let's get a little more detailed. A part within the nucleus.
DNA.
Yeah, the DNA or the chromosomes. Because they contain the instructions about how to build a living organism.
Oh, he left it like.
How about, now this kind of is almost a giveaway. This is a fish market. Yeah, that's good. I don't. But
It's just a
anyway,
substance.
what is the, so what is fish, what nutrient would you say contains? Protein. It's a good source of protein. So which, or raise your hand if you can relate that to a cell organelle. Lily?
Golgi body.
No.
What's the one that breaks?
Yeah, makes. Yeah, ribosomes. Ribosomes. How about the doorway of Fashion Plus? A store that I'm sure you wish you could shop at.
No.
Gift shop. Yes, the cell membrane, because the cell membrane is how things move into and out of the cell. Just like people move into and out of a store through the door. Now, this is different than this.
Yeah, I know.
So here we have the instructions to make a meal. How about the actual chef that's cooking the meal? Raise your hand. What? Ali? No. So think about it. If this is the instructions to build, to make the meal, what is the actual meal? What does DNA have the instructions to make? A person mostly, what are we mostly made out of? Our body tissue.
Oh, tissue.
Mostly are made of, no, protein. So what would this be? Ribosomes. The ribosomes are what actually, yeah, we already did it. We're going to have repeats. What does this wind turbine do? Makes energy, or transforms energy, we should say. Which, raise your hand, which cell organelle is responsible for that? Sean? Yeah, that would be the mitochondria. Garbage truck gets rid of waste from our house. What's the analogy? Which cell organelle? Alice? No? No? This breaks down things that are no longer needed, gets rid of things. Lysosome.
Yeah, you don't have one?
All right, so this one, these, I don't know why these teddy bears are on these little rafts.
But I'm not angry about it.
They are.
I'm not angry about it.
What about the water they are floating in? What cell part would that be an analogy for, Sean?
Fruit juice.
No? They're floating in the water, so...
Oh, no, it's the
Raise your hand, hold on. I know. got cytoplasm. With the material that holds the organelles. Cytoplasm. How about this? This is a big oil tank. Colin. What is a tank that holds something equivalent to in a cell? Ashley? Vacuoles, correct. This river is transporting these sailboats. I don't really need a sailboat on the river, but anyway. What is the river that's transporting these materials in the cell? Jake? You're close, but there's a different organelle for transport within ER, endoplasmic reticulum. All right, we're going to skip all these because we're going to skip those because I think you get the point. Now, living things, for example, a human is made of what did we say is the building block of all living things? Cells. But even cells are made of smaller things, right? Cell organelles and so forth. But in order for something to be an entire living organism, it must be made of cells. Cells are the basic unit of life. And there are some creatures, some organisms, some living things, that's all they are. One single cell. We'll look at some of these in a few weeks. They're a whole living organism, but they're just made of a single cell. Things like amoeba, paramecium, euglena. But in other organisms, there's more complexity, that there are more than one cell. And in that case, often, so an example in a human, let's say, muscle cells. Okay? Muscle cells, this is what a single muscle cell looks like. This is its nucleus. They're elongated cells. But in more complex organisms, not only are there cells or groups of cells, but cells that sort of work together to accomplish some task. A group of cells working together form what we call a tissue. In our body, we have skeletal muscle tissue. We have smooth muscle tissue. We have cardiac muscle tissue. These are all different types of muscle tissue. Cardiac muscle tissue is the muscle that makes our hearts. In some living organisms, they have cells that are working together to form tissues, but that's the highest level of complexity. They don't have organs or organ systems and so forth. A sponge, for example, has cells and tissues, but not organs. But in some more advanced organisms, different groups of tissue work together and they form organs. In our body, for example, what would an organ be? Lungs, liver, skin, brain,
Kidney.
tongue, eyes. Yeah, those are all organs. All of those organs are made of several types of body tissue working together to do a certain job. You know, your tongue is made of epithelial tissue. It's made of muscle tissue. It's made of blood tissue and so forth. Our heart is an organ made of many types of tissues, all with a certain structure that allows it to work. And go one step further. Some organisms have groups of organs that all work together to do a certain job, and those are organ systems. What would be some examples of organ systems in our bodies? That's what I'm asking. Digestive system. Endocrine system. Muscular system, and so forth. Cardiovascular system.
Oh.
And then we have, if we have a complex organism such as a human, all of the organ systems work together to form the entire organism, one single living thing. So like I said, not all living organisms have every level of organization. Some are just single cell, some are just tissue. It just depends on what type of organism we're talking about. Is a wizard here?
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Harry Potter. Yeah.
Technically,
Yeah.
they are humans born with special babies.
So they're just a variation.
So kind of like Mr. Xeros's incredible high selection.
All right. Did anyone notice something I was missing in my outfit today?
A tie. A belt.
Belt.
Yeah.
See, I pay attention to it a little
I hate when I miss the belt. It looks so bad. But,
You didn't even notice.
bit.
So it must
your
be-
pants up.
all right.
I'm recording.
That's all right. So this last section that we're going to talk about, so when we draw the cell, when you drew it, when you looked at the diagrams in your notes or in a book, everything's nice and everything's a different color and you could clearly see the different organelles. Well, in reality, things are not that clear. Almost none of the cell parts have any color to them. Okay? They're all basically just transparent. And they're not all, they don't look as perfect as when we draw them out. Okay? So we're going to look at some actual images of the organelles through the electron microscope. And we'll just review also what they do, their function, and their relative size. So this one, I bet you can guess. Raise your hand if you want to take a guess as to what organelle this thing is. Jake?
Nucleus?
No. Ella?
Vacuole?
No.
Chloroplast?
You're getting closer. Mitochondria.
Oh my
A mitochondria, remember, it's like a bean shape with folds inside. Remind me, raise your hand, what is the function of the mitochondria? Mitochondria. Drew?
Produces like stuff. I don't know.
I don't know about stuff. Zainab.
What?
Yeah, releases energy for the cell. I don't like makes.
It's so basically it is.
So it releases energy.
Is the energy.
And, you know, it's about 5 micrometers. Remember when we were looking at microscopes? Do you remember how wide was our field of view under high power? Our field of view. You estimated it. It's about around 500 micrometers. So mitochondria are really small. That's why when you look at a cell in our microscopes, you don't see individual mitochondria. They're too small. These small structures, there's many of them found within a nucleus. You know what these would be, Ali?
Chromosomes?
Yeah, those are chromosomes. What do they have? They're made of our DNA. They have our genetic instructions. They carry the information that makes us who we are. Okay, they're also about 5 micrometers in length. Different chromosomes are different lengths, but overall, just as a general estimate. Okay, this whole thing is the nucleus. So what do you think number 1 is showing? Lily?
The nucleolus.
Yes, that's the nucleolus. What do you think number 2 is pointing to? Raise your hand. Then I'll call your name. Then you can say a word that's supposed to be the answer. Sean?
Nuclear membrane.
That is the nuclear membrane, correct. All right, the nucleolus, its job is to make ribosomes. The nuclear membrane basically keeps the chromosomes in the nucleus while allowing smaller molecules like RNA to come out of it. cell here. This is the outline of a cell. Let me ask you a question. What type of cell would you guess this is based on its shape? You see it? Plant cell. And what do you think this outer layer is? That's the cell wall. It's thick. You could see it has some thickness to it. Supports the plant cell, protects it. Is it living?
No.
No, it's basically just that shell around the outside, a non-living shell. What's the next layer in? That would be the cell membrane, which determines what can enter and leave the cell. What about this series of tubes that we see? Holly? Close, because they do a similar sort of function, and they do look very similar. Colin?
ER?
Yeah, they're actually the ER, which transport things within the cell. Both the Golgi bodies and the ER are related to transport. The ER transports things inside the cell. The Golgi bodies package things up to leave the cell. Well, these organelles, Ali, what were they? Those were the Golgi bodies. Stacks of buttermilk pancakes with
Bacon.
delicious drops of
I ate sausage
Raisin,
for
Amber,
breakfast.
New York State,
Sausage.
100% pure
I had
maple
juicy sausages
syrup.
for breakfast.
Ew.
Jimmy Dean or whatever.
Oh yeah, there's like all different grades of syrup, and they're based on colors. Yeah, and they taste different. All right, the Golgi bodies package up things that are going to be leaving the cell, as we talked about in our question of the day. All right. We're not going to continue on past that. We're going to end here for today. So our schedule is tomorrow and probably a little time on Wednesday. We'll be doing a lab in which you're going to observe 3 different types of cells. And then we'll review. We'll probably be looking at a quiz. What did I say? I might make it Monday. I'm going to be out on Monday. So it's probably easy enough to it'd probably be easier if I give the sub a quiz to give you, rather than trying to come up with something else.